everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm trying this out. It's too beautiful of a day to go down into my office, or the cave as I like to call it. So I wanted to kind of go live from out here on the porch and in this beautiful weather. So hopefully you can hear me and it's not too distracting with the wind and things going on, because it's gotten really windy in the last couple minutes. But I wanted to recap a little bit about what we talked about on Sunday and talk about maybe a little bit of what's coming up in the next few weeks. But first, Sunday, we covered more of James. We've been in James for a while. Seems like it's been all year, but it really hasn't. But it's been an awesome study walking through James and pulling just a small amount of the amazing truth found in the book of James. And this past week, we talked a lot. I think the name of the sermon was Too Comfortable for the Cross. Just a question there, asking ourselves, have we allowed ourselves to become too comfortable for the cross? Have we allowed ourselves in the luxury and self-indulgence we have permitted into our lives, which our culture is obsessed with? Have we allowed that to change the way we serve God? I think if we're honest, it's really hard not to have allowed the luxury and self-indulgence of this amazing country, which has so much to offer us, and where we live in freedom, but we also live in incredible luxury and have incredible opportunity for self-indulgence. It's hard not to allow that to affect our faith. And so I hope as we talked through that on Sunday, you were able to receive what God had for us. I know it was incredibly challenging and convicting for myself. I often try to tell you, what I'm preaching on Sundays is really an overflow of what I feel like God is speaking to me, what he's teaching me. It's not like I go into a portion of scripture and say, okay, what do these wicked sinners need to hear? But I sit before the Lord and just ask him, hey, God, what do you have for me? What's in here? What's the truth here? And from what I gather, I like to share what I've gleaned from the scriptures. And so if it ever feels like I'm really going hard after something, or I'm really passionate or feel upset about something, it's probably because it's something in my own life that God has his hand on, and I'm trying to root out that sin in my life. And so it's really not, I might make eye contact with you on a Sunday or something. I'm not talking to any one person in the church. It's really what God is speaking to me. And so I had to evaluate for myself. I live in a beautiful home. I have an amazing family. We have 2 cars that we don't have payments on. We live in, I would say we're very rich in our house. I believe myself to be very wealthy, and that might not be what, others wouldn't material wise consider us rich, but I do, because we have so much. I have running water. The lights turn on when I flip the switch every day. I think we've lost power here like 3 times in the almost 6 years we've been here. And that was for like an hour or 2 at a time. And so I feel incredibly blessed, incredibly rich in that. And it can become really easy to add things to our budget, to add things to what we're spending money on, and to then look at that and say, oh man, I just don't have money to bless other people. I don't have the money to, we've never allowed this to be the case, but it's easy to sit there and say, I don't have the money to tithe. I don't have the money to give to the need that is all around me. And it's not a judgment from me, certainly, when I'm talking about this, because I understand it. I get it. We live in the culture we live in. We live in America, where you have to have the nice things and the shiny things and everything else to be considered, up with the times and things like that. But I think more and more so, as we live as believers, we're going to realize that in order to honor God with our lives means we're going to have to live counter-culturally. We're going to have to live in a way that culture looks at and says, it's kind of weird. I don't think we need to be Amish. If you want to live that way, I don't see an issue with it necessarily. It would actually be kind of nice, but my wife would never go for that. But it would be certainly a lot more simple, and you'd have a lot more bills. That's for sure. But it's easy to just add so much, a subscription to this and a subscription to that streaming service and this digital service. And, obviously we have to have internet, and we have to have a cell phone, and we have to have all these things. And it adds up quickly. I think I have an ant on me. Ugh. Okay. I'm all good now. I didn't get eaten. it's so easy to add so much to our lives that if we don't put God first, we get to the end of our budget and we say, I'm sorry, God, I just don't have the budget for you. I can't fit you into my budget. And I would argue that's the exact opposite way to view your finances, because I say your finances, but if you're a believer, they're his. It's everything is his. And so when we don't tithe, when we don't give, when we're not generous to the poor, we're robbing God. And yeah, I'm talking above and beyond our tithe. I still think if we're not engaging the need around us, if we're not involved in engaging the hurt and the need around us in some way, I believe you're robbing God. You're certainly robbing yourself of the opportunity to be blessed as you bless. But I also believe that there is no such thing as just the 10%. I think Jesus affirms the tithe. He affirms the 10% that is supposed to go to God's house. That's, for us in our household, that's it's not even it's an automatic thing that happens. We have no control over it. I mean, we could have control over it, but we make it so that it just comes out first of the month. Bam, that 10% comes out, and then we have a constant finger on the pulse of our budget, saying, okay, now how can we bless others with what we have left? And as I was saying on Sunday, I had just had a conversation the night before with someone about how, hey, you really can't outgive God. Jackie and I, we have just simply chosen to put God first in our finances, and time again, God has blessed us richly and way beyond what we even asked for, because he's just so good like that. And so I encourage you to focus in on that and to lean into that aspect of your life, to not allow the culture of our times to convince you that in order to be happy, you have to have all the fancy toys and you have to have all the newest and the nicest, this, that, and the other, and that the need around you is too great for you to be a part of. I would say, sit down and ask yourself, what am I the most passionate about? One of the questions I ask when I'm doing discipleship with somebody is what bothers you the most in the world? What bothers you the most in the church? And then the follow-up question to both of those is, what are you going to do about it? As you look around our world, what need, what hurt, what suffrage bothers you the most? And then ask yourself, how can I be a part of fixing this? How can I be a part of the solution? And allow God to lead you into that, whatever that might be. It's going to be different for all of us, because we all just see different things, and God's laid different things on our hearts. And so some of those will be inside the church. Some of them will be outside the church. I'm not saying that, you have to, give your 10% and then, give a bunch more to the church. That's not what we're talking about. The tithe is God's, but the offering, we get to, by the guidance of the Holy Spirit, we get to bless people with that offering that is generally going to be outside the church. So I encourage you to think through that, to process that, to ask yourself that question, when you pass away, what you leave behind, James says it's going to be used as evidence against you. Is it going to be good evidence that Jesus was your king? He was your Lord. He was your top and most important priority, that the kingdom of God took priority over anything this world had to offer? Or would the evidence suggest otherwise? And I don't know about you, but man, I've really been wrestling with that this week, since last week, as I was preparing the message. Just wow, like, what am I investing into here? And I'm the first person to admit, I get excited over nerdy stuff like tech stuff, and I would love to have the newest cell phone. If some of you know my history, I worked in cell phones for a couple of years. I'd love to have the newest cell phone stuff. It's just a geeky, nerdy kind of thing that I absolutely love. But it's simply not a priority. It's certainly not, I think, good stewardship for me to do that. I don't have the newest phone. I can't remember how many years old my phone is, but we don't need all the newest and the best. What we need is Jesus. And when we can find our fulfillment through him, when he completely satisfies and fulfills us in every way in our life, then we get to be blessed by the other things of some of the things of this world. I get to be blessed with certain electronic stuff and building computers and stuff like that. Like I feel comfortable in that because I know I put God first in my finances and in my income and the way that we spend our money. And so I encourage you to do the same, to be able to sit before God and know, hey, I've honored you in the way in the way that I spent what you gave me, because everything we have is the Lord's. You may be the one working the job and you may be the one earning the income, but man, it is God's, and he will hold us accountable for that someday. And I don't say that in like a judgmental, like, oh, you should be afraid, but in a blessing sort of way, that one day you can stand before God and with joy present the way you invested your money into the kingdom. And I pray and hope that is the case for you, because you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt in that moment it was worth every bit of sacrifice, and it will take sacrifice. I mean, there's a lot of things that Jackie and I have talked about. There's a lot of things we could do with our money if we wanted to. If we just, if we stop tithing and we stop giving our offering, we stop budgeting to bless people, there's a lot we could do with the money we make, and we could really indulge ourselves. But I know when I stand before God one day, I will not have been sorry for the money we invested into the kingdom in any way, shape, or form. So that's my encouragement to you. That was really what Sunday's message was all about. Yes, we did talk about finances, and so I appreciate those of you that were able to keep an open heart and an open mind as we talked about finances. We don't talk about it often. Actually, we probably should talk about it a little bit more. I know we have a lot of faithful tithers in our church, and a handful of you have from time to time told me, hey, we need to talk about this more, and I agree with you. I don't like talking about it, just being honest. I don't, because I feel like, man, if you love Jesus and you want to see his kingdom advance, you're going to tithe, you're going to give above and beyond what's required. But I do believe some teaching on it and some instruction in that area is probably wise. But that's beside the point. I don't want to rabbit trail too much. But these next couple of weeks are just going to come rapid fire. It's going to be a crazy couple of weeks here. We got Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. And so all of you ladies, again, you don't have to be somebody who has a biological child in order to attend. You don't have to have any children. You could be a teenage woman. And we invite you to be a part of our dinner this coming Saturday, 6 p.m. Let me make sure I'm getting these times right. So if I don't look things up, I'll miss things. 6 p.m. Yeah, this Saturday, the 11th, 6 p.m. for our Mother's Day dinner. It is going to be fantastic dinner and a fantastic time of fellowship. So I encourage you to attend. Guys, we have 7 o'clock on Friday. They're going to be setting up, doing some stuff to get ready for that dinner. And then around 1 o'clock on Saturday, they're going to be prepping things, getting everything ready, putting things together. And so I encourage you guys, if you're able to help, if you're able to be a part of that, and to bless our women in that way, then please join us for that. You don't necessarily have to let us know, but if you can let us know that you're going to be there, that would help. And then Sunday's Mother's Day, and a day to celebrate the awesome moms in our midst. And I encourage you to think of ways and ask God for ways to bless the women in your life, and especially your mom. And any other mothers that have had an impact on you. And then coming up here, we got Church in the Park happening not too long. I mean, I got Kiara graduating from pre-K and Killian graduating from kindergarten. It's just going to be a wild month here for us. Memorial Day coming up on the 27th. And then we got, like I said, Church in the Park on the 9th and Father's Day on the 16th. It's just going to be a crazy month. So I pray blessings over you. I pray that God would meet you in your context and wherever you find yourself this week. I pray as you wrestle through what we talked about Sunday, that God would meet you there and awesome things would happen in your life as you give. If you've never have, if you giving over to God, the financial area of your life, and choosing to honor him and put him first and prioritize him and his kingdom. Maybe you've grown a little lax in that and God is calling you back to that. Or maybe you're there, and I would encourage you, look around and disciple people in that area. It's amazing. I had a guy in college who discipled me in this area. I had no framework for tithing. When I got saved, the money I made and the jobs that I had, I mean, I would throw a $5 bill. I would throw, just pennies into the plate on a Sunday morning, because I thought like that's really all it was required is I gave something. I had to give something And I felt guilty giving a 1. I felt like it was too much to give a 20. So, I would throw a 5 or a 10 in the plate. And when I was in college, an older gentleman, he came alongside me. He's like, and he taught me the principles of tithing and the difference between a tithe and an offering, and how blessed he and his family were because they had chosen to increase their giving every year. And Jackie and I have done that as well in our lives, in our marriage. When we first met, I was in the process of doing that, of increasing to a certain point, and man, it has been a tremendous blessing. I would say, yeah, there's certainly some things, some sacrifices we've made as a couple, as a family, but I can't say we've gone without, because the things we've gone without, it's not that big of a deal. We'll be okay without it. And in place of that, we've received more of God. And that has been worth every bit of what you might call sacrifice. So God bless you all. Have a great week. Hope to see you Sunday. Moms and ladies, hope to see you on Saturday. Guys, hopefully Friday and Saturday as well. But join us Sunday, 10:30 a.m. If you can't be with us in person, you can always catch us here online. God bless you, and have